If you are a premium pass member, then you've got a lot to look forward to because in January, we've got 2 new maps and a brand new air vehicle to look forward to. All thanks to the Turning Tides DLC. In this video, I'll be answering the following questions. How good actually is this new airship? What are the loadouts? What are its strengths and weaknesses? Can it score big? What are the strengths and weaknesses of all the vehicles in this map? How can you be at the top of the food chain? Are the new naval mines any good at all? And we'll top it off with something special. I'm just going to leave it at that for now, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Okay, let's start with the first of 2 loadouts, the Observer loadout. Let's take a look at its payloads. Its special ability is the spotting camera. As you can see on screen, it is something we've seen before. It just spots your enemies. Now, this is pretty funny, guys. This is the first time in this game that we've seen an airborne anti-air gun. Brilliant. Now that was seat 4, but up in seat 3, we've got a high explosive autocannon, very similar to what we've seen in the front gunner of the standard bomber. Seat 2 is a 76mm armor-piercing cannon, which is effective against infantry and vehicles. Obviously, we're not going to get any tanks with these 2 maps, but it is going to be good against torpedo boats, which you will be seeing plenty of in these 2 maps. And finally, we've got the pilot seat, which has the Dreadnought Barrage. Essentially, this is just a point-and-click airstrike, and this will significantly damage anything it hits. Unlike all the other seats, the pilot seat gets a payload which it can drop directly beneath it. Now, this is a bit of an interesting one. So the description in the CTE reads 2 times 250 kilogram bombs, but every time I'm dropping it, it is dropping 5 bombs. Now, it's worth noting that 250 kilograms is something we've seen before and is the most powerful payload we've ever had, but we've only ever been able to drop 2 of them before. So I am curious as to whether DICE are just going to change the description to read 5 times 250 or if they're actually a lower size payload. Now, whatever the size is, you're going to love this, guys, because if you go head to head against a destroyer and manage to land every single one of those bombs in the payload on the destroyer, you will get a kill from full health. But guys, just be careful when doing this, because when I've killed a destroyer with full health, I've noticed some sort of bug where my mum's integrity is questioned. So everything we've just discussed is for the Observer loadout, and the Raider loadout has only a small difference, and that is that instead of the spotting camera special ability, it gets naval mines, and also the second seat turns into a high explosive rather than armor piercing cannon, and the pilot seat gets fragmentation grenades, 12 of them, which are only good against infantry and not against vehicles. Okay, so let's quickly talk about these naval mines. The Raider airship loadout does come equipped with 3 naval mines. Each one does 30 damage to a destroyer. Now, what do you think of when you think of naval mines? I think of them as a passive weapon, one that you lay and wait for an enemy to hit. But you're going to have to lay them really carefully and precisely in some sort of really unreasonable, clever way in order to expect a destroyer to hit all 3 of them. Therefore, you're not ever going to get a kill on a destroyer with those naval mines in a passive way. Therefore, and something I was trying to do on the CTE, is you have to turn it into an active, aggressive weapon. You know, one that you proactively seek out your enemy and try and land those mines directly on them. But that is just not worth your time because, again, we're talking 90 damage total. The mines, notice when you lay the mines, they are spread out and slow dropping. You may as well just stick with the first loadout, the demolition loadout, because these mines aren't going to be very good as an active weapon. The design was to be a passive weapon, so DICE, I think you guys need to make it so that these mines are worth laying. Okay, so now we know what the airship comes equipped with. Let's just quickly talk about the strengths and weaknesses so that we can finish off this question. Now, the biggest strength, and probably the only strength it needs, is that it can pretty much kill anything. With all 4 seats filled, it can go up against anything and be effective at killing it. But the biggest weakness is that it can actually be killed really quickly and really easily. Let me explain. Okay, so 2 things really. Anti-air emplacements and enemy airplanes. and both of which are scattered all over the map. Anti-air emplacements are everywhere. They're on the Behemoth, they're on the Destroyer, and they're also scattered all over the map, and they're on the airship as well. So anti-air will kill the enemy airship really quickly, and once it's in range of anti-air, it's got no escape maneuvers. Additionally, when it's up against enemy airplanes, it will just go down almost sometimes in just one pass. I mean, if you see in this clip right here, you can see a bomber killer comes at me and takes out 96% of my health. I have had several times on this map where I've taken the blimp and I've tried to fly to the other side of the map where the destroyers are to do something in this map, and I've never even made it halfway. It just goes down too quickly. DICE, if you're listening, please buff this health. So to summarize, guys, we've got an airship which is really good at killing anything on the battlefield, but it has a life expectancy of about 60 seconds. And there are two loadouts, but I would always recommend to use the observer loadout because the infantry loadout just isn't worth it. It doesn't add any extra value, and trying to lay mines is an activity which reaps no reward. Okay, so if I'm going to spawn in as an airship, I'm not going to be at the top of the food chain because I'm going to go down really quickly. So guys, you might be wondering, what vehicle are you going to want to spawn in if you want to be at the top of the food chain, if you want to try and get a big score? Well, let's start with the destroyer. Let's consider the destroyer. I've noticed in all my gameplay so far that if I want to get anywhere near the island, then I'm going to expect to be surrounded by boats, and it's only going to take 2 shots on target from a torpedo boat to kill me. And there's also about 15 torpedo boats available at any one time on this map. Therefore, once again, your life expectancy with the destroyer is going to be really low. The only thing I can think of if you want to try and survive and stay alive is to stay far away from the island so that you can keep all torpedo boats in one general direction away from you so that you know where to look and get them in advance of their approach. Although that being said, maybe you guys can find a position on the map where you have that same tactical advantage of keeping your enemies in one direction, like I did on this Zeebrugge map right here at the end of the lighthouse. This provided me that same tactical advantage of seeing boats coming from one direction. Brilliant. And as for the question, trying to be at the top of the food chain, if you want to try these tactics with the destroyer, you're essentially camping in the water and you run the risk of not seeing that much activity and that much fun. Therefore, moving on to the vehicles of my preferred choice when it comes to top of the food chain, we move on to one of 2 aircraft. Now, as much as I'd love one of these 2 vehicles to be the torpedo bomber, I'm gonna say no, it's not the torpedo bomber because there are so many aircraft in the sky. You've got a limited life expectancy once again, and if you get anywhere near the island as well for those cheeky infantry kills, you're going to be surrounded by AA and enemy airship airborne AA. So there it is, guys. It all comes down to the ability to survive and also the ability to kill, some sort of balance in between, and therefore what I've chosen here is one of 2 aircraft, one of which being this one right here, the Bomber Killer Loadout. The Bomber Killer Loadout is very good at taking out any enemy aircraft, including the airship. Almost one pass is just enough to kill an enemy airship. The only problem is you're going to have a tough challenge trying to kill the torpedo boats, but you can go for those cheeky infantry kills and you can always be in action. I think this is the runner-up to my preferred vehicle of choice, the vehicle which I think is top of the food chain. In my opinion, guys, this would be the Tank Hunter, sometimes known as the Plane Hunter. This guy is good at killing enemy aircraft, it's good at killing torpedo boats, maybe not so good at killing enemy airships, although it does do 40 damage to the enemy airship if you can land that secondary payload. It can also nibble away about 6 to 8 damage on the destroyers with each hit, and therefore for all around balance and constant action, this is my preferred vehicle of choice in the new DLC Turning Tides. I haven't mentioned it, so you must be wondering, Nick, these top 2 aircraft are just as susceptible to enemy anti-air weapon fire. So how do they make the top list? Well, guys, of all the vehicles considered in this video, these are the only 2 which have countermeasures to anti-air weapon fire, or more precisely, escape maneuvers. You can always execute the wide corkscrew to get away from anti-air weapon fire, and you can always outmaneuver an enemy airplane. Now, whilst that was a fun question to ask, maybe the real question we should ask is, do we want to survive?